You have to be twice as good to get half as much. It's a phrase I've heard all my life. My mother drilled it into me. My father drilled it into me. My teachers drilled it into me. Heck, even Daddy Pope drilled it into me.
Have to be what?
Twice.
What?
Twice as good.
Twice as good as them to get half of what they have.
It's a phrase that's typical for communities of color, women, people from lower socioeconomic backgrounds, or just marginalized communities in general, when their elders are teaching their children how to survive and succeed in areas where they may be underrepresented. And for years, I took that to heart, and I did exactly that. Worked myself to exhaustion, trying to prove I was good enough, and if I achieved things, I immediately dismissed them because I attributed my success to grinding and not actually being capable. Then I realized I had imposter syndrome. And it came directly from the twice as good message that I had internalized my whole life. Listen, the twice as good to imposter syndrome pipeline needs to be studied. And if you've ever sat in a meeting thinking, they're going to figure out that I don't belong here, if you've ever turned down an opportunity because you felt you weren't ready enough, stick around. Because I want to talk about why our brains are lying to us, but more importantly, how we can stop it. Hi, I'm Tiffany, your organizing bestie, in my head anyway. I help women just like you change their environment and mindset and level up authentically, because I believe that organization is transformation and an organized life starts with mental space. I want to start by honoring where this message comes from, because that matters. So if you heard this growing up, it probably came from a parent who experienced discrimination and just wanted to prepare you, or maybe a community that watched people with talent get overlooked for less qualified people, or even the lived experience of having to work harder just for the same recognition. And I do think it comes from a genuine place of love and protection. And the fact of the matter is, they weren't wrong. Studies show that resumes with Black sounding names get fewer callbacks than identical resumes with white sounding names. And women have to provide more evidence of their competence than men do for the exact same roles. And low income background applicants face assumptions about their work ethic that wealthier applicants don't face. So when your mama and your grandmother and your mentor told you you have to be twice as good, they were preparing you for the real world, a world that would judge you more harshly than it judges others. So I just want to acknowledge that, and I want to respect that. But it does come at a cost. So I want to talk about how this works, because once I saw it, I couldn't unsee it. When you're taught you have to be twice as good, what happens when you're just good? What happens when you're just competent or just skilled or even excellent but not superhuman? You feel like you're failing because normal isn't enough for people like us. Then achieving normal feels like you're coming up short. So the finish line isn't excellence for us, it's perfection times two, and nobody can maintain that standard. So enter imposter syndrome. So first, let's get clear on what we're dealing with. So imposter syndrome isn't just about feeling nervous with a new challenge. That's normal. Imposter syndrome is when you achieve something and then you immediately begin thinking, oh, I got lucky, or I fooled them this time, but they're going to figure it out about me any minute. And it presents in a few different ways. So you have the perfectionist, and this is where if I'm not flawless, I'm a failure. And then you have the expert, which is where I need to know everything before I can speak up. You have the soloist. It's like, if I need help, then I'm weak. And then, of course, you have the superhuman. I have to excel in every area of life or I'm a failure. The crazy part is imposter syndrome primarily affects high achievers, People who feel like frauds are usually the ones who deserve the success, because most of the times they're the ones that are actually achieving. So your brain is like literally just punishing you for being competent. But there's a reason for this. So your subconscious mind, it has one job, and that's to keep you safe. So it thinks it's only here to keep you alive. And for thousands of years, being rejected by the group meant death. So think about like a lone gazelle or an outlier. That's the one that's going to get picked off by a lion. If you're a caveman, you get thrown out of a cave, you are facing death or starvation or getting eaten. So when you level up or you get a promotion or start to gain recognition, become an outlier, your primitive brain panics and tries to sabotage you back into safety. But here's where I think a lot of the advice about imposter syndrome gets it wrong. So we're told to work harder or to prove ourselves. But that's exactly what feeds the syndrome, because if you believe you have to work twice as hard or be twice as good just to be acceptable, then anything less than that means that you don't belong. So any minute mistake becomes like an existential crisis, and every moment of being just okay feels like proof that you're a fraud. And so you live in this constant state of fear that you're going to be discovered and that you're not actually twice as good, you're just regular good, and then that won't be enough. So you can't rest and you can't breathe, you can't exhale, because the moment you do, you might be exposed as merely competent. And we've been taught our whole lives, remember, that merely competent isn't enough for people like us. So let's discuss some patterns of self-sabotage. You tell yourself, okay, once I have X credential or degree or certification, then I'll be legitimate. And then you get it. And you immediately start thinking, oh, actually, I need Y credential or degree or certification to really prove myself. And the goalpost just keeps moving because you're trying to earn something that you can't earn, your self-worth. Okay, you work 60-hour work weeks trying to prove you deserve the position, but the harder you work to prove yourself, the more your belief is reinforced that you need to work twice as hard to prove yourself. So you're basically training your brain that your natural talents and abilities are not enough. You won't submit the proposal. You won't apply for the job until you meet 100% of the requirements. You won't start the project until you've researched to the nth degree. You think you're being thorough, but what you're really doing is procrastinating, and it's out of fear. When something goes well, you immediately discount it. Oh, that was just luck, or anybody could have done that. But if something goes poor or poorly, then you take on full responsibility. Like, I knew I was a fraud. You're just training yourself to ignore any and all evidence of your competence. And then, of course, you got the self-sabotage cycle. So you get an opportunity and you feel unworthy about it. So you either avoid it completely or you overwork to earn it. And if you succeed, you discount it. But if you don't, it's proof you're a fraud. And the cycle repeats and repeats, just getting stronger and stronger each time. Most of us learn that acceptance and success must be earned through performance, and not just performance, perfect performance at that. So when we do achieve something, sometimes we think, okay, I've earned this, but it doesn't stop there. Then we think, okay, I need to keep proving myself every day, otherwise it'll be taken away. But here's why you can't earn your way out of imposter syndrome. It's because it's not actually about your qualifications. It's more about your relationship with yourself. And no amount of external validation is going to fill an internal void. So you could literally win a Nobel Peace Prize and you'll think, oh, I think they made a mistake. So society tells us that confidence should come from competence. So you get good enough at something, you'll feel confident in it. But that's actually backwards from the real relationship between competence and confidence. So competence is about what you can do, what you're able to do. Confidence is about your relationship with uncertainty. So people think they need to eliminate the uncertainty and then they can act confidently. But most confident people act despite the uncertainty. And that's part of what makes them confident. And smart people really struggle with this because the smarter you are, the more aware you are of that uncertainty because you're more aware of what you don't know. It's like the reverse of the Dunning-Kruger effect, where incompetent people overestimate their ability. Well, competent people tend to underestimate their ability. So your intelligence can actually be working against you. But success isn't just about never failing or never feeling uncertain. It's about taking action despite the uncertainty and then learning from both the successes and the failures. Because every failure is just about data. It's just about what doesn't work. So the solution isn't to convince yourself that you're perfect. It's actually to change the relationship that you have with growth and uncertainty and self-worth. And it's going to take a series of shifts and strategies to do that. So stop asking, am I good enough? And start asking, am I getting better? Because our identity shouldn't be tied to, am I somebody that knows everything, but am I somebody that learns quickly? Am I somebody that adapts? Spoiler alert, you are. Instead of trying to earn your place, focus on contributing value. So we're going to ask, how can I help? Instead of, do I deserve to be here? How can I help? Because when we focus on contribution, then our worthiness becomes more obvious. Perfect is the enemy of good, and good is the enemy of done. So your job isn't to be perfect. Your job is to be effective. So sometimes effective means like you're going to get it out there at 80% perfect, as opposed to not getting it out there at 100% perfect. Stop trying to hide what you don't know and start getting curious about it. So when somebody asks you something that you don't know, instead of panicking and thinking that you don't belong, you just say something like, you know what, that's a great question. I don't know off the top of my head, but I can find out for you. Or I haven't encountered that. So tell me more about your experience with it. You can be curious about it. You don't have to let it define you. Okay, so we have the evidence file. We're going to keep a document, the notes app, a journal. I keep a paper and pen planner, but we're going to keep a document where we're going to track every piece of evidence that contradicts our imposter syndrome, compliments that we receive, problems we solve, goals we met, times we figured things out, any positive feedback from anybody else. And this is the important thing. We are going to review it weekly because our brains need the repetition as evidence to change the patterns. And then we're going to employ the 40% rule. When you feel 40% ready for something, that's when we're going to do it. Not 90%, not 100%, 40%. What that's doing is training our brains that we don't need to be fully prepared to succeed. We can go with what we know and then learn the other 60% on the job. We're going to normalize not knowing. We're going to practice saying some phrases. You know what? I don't know, but I'll find out. That's outside of my area of expertise. You know what? I'm still learning about that. That's actually a really great question. I'd love to research that. The more we normalize not knowing every single thing, the less threatening it becomes. So we're going to reframe our contribution before any meeting or presentation or opportunity. We're going to ask, what unique value can I bring to this situation? And focus on what we can bring, not what we might lack. And then we are going to reframe our inner critic. So when the inner critic says, you don't belong here, you're going to respond with, thank you. I know you're trying to keep me safe, but I've got it. So we're just going to treat that inner critic like that overprotective parent. Acknowledge the concern, respect it, but do not let it make your decisions for you. We're going to operate with experiment mindset. So we're going to treat everything as an experiment. I'm going to experiment with speaking up for myself. I'm going to experiment applying for positions this week. Experiments just produce data. You don't have to worry about them succeeding or failing. It's just data. So some in the moment techniques that we can try, or we can try the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 grounding method. This is where you have 5 things that you can see, 4 things that you can touch, 3 things that you can hear, 2 things that you can smell, and 1 thing that you can taste. And what this does is just kind of pulls you out of your head and puts you in the present moment. Another thing that we can try is we can ask our reality check questions. So this may look like when the critic rears its ugly head, is that true? What evidence do I have that I'm actually not qualified? Or you can ask something like, what would I tell a friend in this situation? Or realistically, what's the worst that could happen here? Or how will I look back on this situation 5 years from now? And another technique you can use in real time is the power of just a simple word, yet. I don't know how to do this yet. I don't feel quite qualified for this just yet. That one simple word can change everything because you go from fixed limitation to just being a temporary state. Okay, so here's our plan. Today, we are going to start that evidence file. Write down 3 things that you know you're good at, and then write 3 problems that you've solved within the last month or so. Then this week, we're going to practice the 40% rule. Apply for something, speak out about something, do something or start something when you are 40% ready. And if this resonated with you, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. I want to hear your story. Did you grow up hearing this phrase? What's one thing that you've been putting off because you don't feel ready enough? Let's normalize not being quite ready and doing it anyway. I want you to drop the word file in the comments if you actually are going to start your evidence file. And remember, if you're worried about the fact that you might be an imposter, you probably aren't. Real frauds, they don't really worry about being frauds. So your self-awareness is actually evidence of your competence. And you can put that on the file too. And if you're ready to go deeper, I've created a free guide. It's called the Authentic Self Workbook. It's a discovery questionnaire to help you uncover who you are at your core. And I'll link that in the comments as well. Don't forget to subscribe if you want more content about authentic confidence, breaking through mental barriers, and godly identity-based organization, because that's what we're about around here. Not organization as performance, but organization as transformation. And remember, you're not an imposter. You're human, you're learning, you're growing, and that's exactly where you're supposed to be. Thank you so much for watching. Go be great, and I'll see you in the next lesson. Bye.